there will always be a testing period in your life. The testing period is there to teach you about yourself. It is to guide you in your next steps. It's to reveal to yourself what you're made of, what you can be made of in the future. What you do in the testing period is very important, because if you kind of put your head in the sand like an ostrich, I can promise you it is not going to be for your benefit. If, however, you are willing to trust God in the testing period, then anything, and I do mean anything, is possible. Like this stream, like I said, I was not planning on doing this at all. Does this make logical sense? No. Does this make financial sense? I don't think so. You know, I already have so many other things I'm doing. But the Lord has shown to me many times that He is able to do His work. That I do not have to worry about anything. It's really frustrating, and it can be really saddening when somebody passes away that I was hoping to spend more time with. The truth of the matter is that I did have time to reach out to that person, and maybe I didn't do it. And I'm not here to speak lightly of death or anything, but everything I've learned from every death of every kind, of everything that I've experienced, has helped me to change. And that is literally the whole point of the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's literally the whole point of any of this stuff, really, is that there is the opportunity to make changes before Christ comes again. See, there's all these people that are talking about Christ is not going to come again, therefore I do not need to be ready, and I don't have to do anything. This is not the truth, and you don't have to believe me. Someday we'll all get to see Him, but and that is faith. That's faith, as well as, like, with anything that God has told you, that it doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, I don't see how that can happen, God. It doesn't make any sense to me. Well, if you are really trying to listen to the right voices, and you're living a good life, I mean, the Lord is not going to lead you astray. He's going to guide you on the path back to Him, because obviously He wants you back. He wants you back. And this testing period, and I am definitely have been going through that the last year, is one of the most important things that could ever happen in your life, is to go through that testing period. Like, if everything else completely fell apart, and if a stream was taken away, or a podcast died, or if a relationship that you really liked ended, or if a person died, if any of this stuff happened, what would you do next? Would you still trust Him? Would you trust that He is aware of you? Would you trust that He cares about you still? Would you trust that His love for you is never ending? Would you trust that He is still so good and still so aware of you, even with everything that has been happening? And this is really hard to do. This is very hard to do. I think it's very difficult to trust in God's plan. That's exactly the point, though. It has to be difficult. If it was easy, then everybody would do it. If the fruits of trusting God's plan were immediate, then I think everybody would do it. But they're not. There's going to be times where you really don't understand. Understanding is not your current plan. That is not what God, like that's not what he needs of you right now. All he needs is trust. That's all he needs. I think that's the really hard thing though. Because for me, doing this stream right now is like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't want to start a thing. I don't want to jump back into streaming. I don't want to get people's hopes up and stuff. But if this is what you want me to do, then I will do it. I have changed tremendously since the last time I streamed. There are not any words to describe it. I have learned to accept God's plan for me and trust it. I'm seeing his miracles on a daily basis. I know that God is real. I know that God is alive. I know that God is aware of everything that's going on. Even if there could be all these popular streamers, there could be all these super, just morally, terribly popular things. Does not change anything, and certainly doesn't change the fact that God is love, God is real, God is aware. All these things will have joy in their works for a season. They will be able to deceive a lot of people, and we see that all over the place. But what God does is he enlightens people, and he gives light to their understanding. He gives perspective to them. He gives them hope when nothing else can give them hope. That is what God does. I've seen that enough times in my life to accept that. There's been times in the last year where God's very clearly been like, hey, I know you want to tell this person about this. Do not do that. That's really hard. But when you close your mouth and you stay silent for the Lord, you will find that he has a plan. He has a plan for that. And your plan's probably gonna be different from somebody else's plan. That doesn't mean God doesn't love you. Doesn't mean he doesn't care about you. Certainly doesn't mean he doesn't cherish you. And that's the tough thing, is that there's people all over the world like, oh, this happened, and it's pretty clear that God is a changeable God, that God does not love me. No. God does love you. God does care about you. And when he does things, it's for a reason. I've had jobs fall apart. I've had other things fall apart recently, and it's like, okay, I guess there's a reason for this. Otherwise, this would have happened. Because you have good desires. It's good to have good desires. The thing about life, though, is that we often need to wait for anything to happen with those desires. And this is where God is asking, hey, are you willing to trust me on this? Even though you don't understand. Are you willing to trust me on it? If the answer is yes, then anything is possible. If the answer is yes, then we will see miracles and we will see wonderful things happen. Because when the Lord knows he can trust you, then he knows that he can trust you to do basically anything. And when that is the truth, then really anything becomes possible. There might have been times where Moses was like, okay, I would like to, I would not like to be, I think it'd be nice to be a prince in Egypt instead. Instead of, bringing the children of Israel out. But the Lord is like, no, I have a plan for this. And you can choose to accept it or not. You can choose to listen to these loving friends. You can choose to be like, oh, wow, this is definitely a gift from God. Or we can go, oh yeah, God has left me alone. God doesn't care. You know what? He does care. For me, it's been pretty clear through video games. It's been pretty clear through people I've had on my podcasts, it's been pretty clear through things that have not happened in my life that God does care. God is aware. And then God hears and answers my prayers. I did not pray last night, hey, I'd really like to stream again. And yet, here we are. Yesterday, me and my brother James watched a video about Carl Jacobs and him and how streaming was helped him out and opened up doors, but if anything, maybe that was a hint. I don't know. I really don't know. All I know is I feel good about this, and that's a big deal, because I just feel this sense of urgency. I feel this sense of hope. I feel this infinite reason to not pay any attention at all to what Satan might be trying to do in your life, because he's working on all of us. He's trying to work on all of us through our temptations, our fears, anything like that. He's working on that. But the truth of the matter is that God is going to win. God is going to win this battle. And he already has won this battle. And there's people that forget that.